All right, ladies and gentlemen, outsiders, we welcome you to, as always, every conversation that we have is a special conversation because we do it real, we do it authentic, because it's just human conversation that we're having here today. And like any other time that you're tapping in with us, we have a special guest to facilitate the conversation. And tonight's special guest, uh, man born and raised, if I'm not mistaken. And let's make sure we get this straight. I've only been here in Kansas City for a year, but I can't ever mess this up. Kansas City, Missouri, I believe is the side that you grew up in, right? In the 50s, 55th Street to be
Absolutely.
exact. We have a legend, we have a king in the building, and that gentleman is Black Walt. A man of many talents, a man of many hustles, which is how life really should be done. You're someone that keeps yourself very, very busy. You just recently celebrated a birthday as well, so happy belated birthday to you.
Not yet. Not
Yep,
yet.
the 18th of February. So
Yeah, there you go. There
that
you
was
go. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
no, so happy belated there. But in this case, early birthday to you.
I
Um, Black Wall, you to most people who don't know you are probably most famously known for naming Tech Nine.
Yeah.
Um, but for anybody that might not know you, outside of that, give us a little bit backstory of who you are and kind of what it was like as well, growing up in Kansas City, Missouri.
Um, I'm Black Walt. I grew up on 55th in Michigan, which is the heart of Kansas City. We call it Midtown. Some people from down north call it out south, but we call it Midtown. We basically in the middle. Um, I grew up in the 70s at a time when our area was actually segregated. We had a lot of white families, a lot of black families in our neighborhood in the 70s when I was growing up, and I was actually born and raised on 55th. So I am definitely one of the backbones of 55th who seen it all, who seen it all growing up, man, and experienced it all as well. Uh, as far as the racial tension, the racial harmony. Um, as a youngster growing up, we were bused from our neighborhood. They actually bused us to white schools, um, being in the first grade all the way to the eighth grade. Well, no, actually, yeah, all the way to the eighth grade. In between there, I went to, excuse me, another school called Southeast, which was predominantly black though. And then I transferred. I went from Bingham, well, Southeast to Bingham, and then I went to Southwest High School, which was pretty much mixed up as well. Probably 60-40 split, 60% being black, maybe 35-40% being white. So I grew up in a pretty balanced environment, I'll say. So, but yeah, I got into music when I was young, man. I got into music at like 10 years old, 10, 11 years old, around 82, 83. I'm telling my age now, which is all good. Um, I got into music.
With age comes wisdom, bro, for real.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So I got into music because my one of my older brothers, he was in a band called the Grand Jury Band, which was a real big band back in Kansas City back then. And they used to play cover music like Dad's Band and Cameo, Confunction. Um, and they used to perform in this big talent show at Southeast called the Night Lights. So they used to practice at our house. And when they used to practice, when they would leave to go home, they would leave all their instruments behind. And
Mhm.
that's how I became interested in music. So I actually started on the production side with the music, and then I eventually moved over to the rap side of music. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely got a couple projects under your belt there. Was there anything specific that led you from moving to the production side to be like, yo, I want to rap? Where'd that ultimately come from for you?
rapping,
Like
the
a
rap,
natural, or was it like more like a natural progression just with the music
No,
experience that you were getting at that time?
no. What got me interested in the rap side of it was uh sorry about that. Hold on
No,
just a second.
you're good. No, you're fine.
All right. What got me interested in the rap side of it was Run DMC, Run DMC and LL Cool J and Rakim. Uh, I was a big fan of those artists, so that's what got me interested in the rap side. Um, yeah, that's what got me interested in the rap side of music. But as far as the production, uh, my older brother, Bruce J, and his band, the Grand Jury Band, Lance Alexander, Lawrence Williams, uh, Buddy Ford, and Tony Rowe, and Tommy Taylor, uh, Mickey. Can't forget about Mickey. Uh, but those guys, they got me interested in the production side of it because they played the bass guitar, the lead guitar, drums, live keyboards. So that's what got me into the production side of it.
Man, that's what's. How do you feel having that production experience when you decided to cross over into rapping? What benefits do you feel that you maybe picked up or had from getting that production experience once you started to pick up the mic and start writing yourself?
Well, when I first started rapping, I actually did all my own beats. I did all my own production. So that also led to me producing Tech Nine's very first recorded song ever. Uh, I had a studio in my mother's basement. Uh, my dad had ended up buying me some equipment, and my brother and his band they ended up giving me some equipment, and I started a studio. And I was 13 years old. That would be 1985 when I actually opened my first studio up. And me and Tech Nine was going to school together. And Tech was actually he started out as a beatboxer. He used to beatbox, beat on his chest, and he would supply the beats for me and this guy named Melvin Robinson. We had a group, and Tech Nine used to beatbox for us, but then Tech Nine was writing raps himself, unbeknownst to my knowledge. And going into our freshman year, I would say at Southwest High School, he came to me and told me I wrote a rap. And the name of the rap was called New Breed. And it was just phenomenal, man. It was a whole nother level. It was something I had never heard in my entire life, especially back then, back in 1988. It was crazy, man.
Especially
So
when it wasn't necessarily a lot of that. And again, I'm not going to assume. I'm going to hypothesize is what I'm going to do. Like you had mentioned, your influences, being LL Cool J, Rakim, and I forgot who else, and
Run
Run
DMC,
DMC, the
yeah.
King, without question. Um, what was the scene like? Before rap really started to, let's just call it. Obviously, most people would call the origination and original mecca of it New York City, of course. Um,
Yeah,
what was the scene like before it started to really migrate more on a national level from that New York City tri-state area?
everything was coming out of New York back then. Uh, Everything, man. You had Curtis Blow, you had EPMD, uh, you had Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. And you had all these iconic groups, MC Light. So everything was basically coming out of the East Coast, and that's what we listened to. We listened to it faithfully, man. And this is the early '80s, and then it migrated, to the West Coast, and then you had Dr. Dre and the World Class Wrecking Crew, Egyptian Lover, um, moving on to NWA, which being that during that time when NWA came out, uh, which was the mid '80s, my neighborhood had shifted, and our neighborhood had shifted and changed a lot. All the white families that were in our neighborhood in the '70s, in the early '80s, they had all moved out,
Mm.
and the crack epidemic had hit our neighborhood. So a lot of mothers and fathers that were together and families that were together, they all they were split and broken. You know, that crack epidemic, man, that was
Wow, that
that's to this day, out of my entire life, that was the most damaging uh, thing that had ever hit our community. So when NWA came out and they was, rapping about dope man and fuck the police, and, you know, that's exactly what was going on in our neighborhood. It was complete chaos. So
mm,
that's how, NWA became so popular, because a lot of black communities could relate to what they were talking about. And a lot of it came with the crack epidemic.
no, I agree because they were speaking, and it's funny how you say, obviously with the timing of how hip hop has evolved, and how you guys here in this Kansas City area got put onto it coming out of New York. You bring up NWA when I was born in '81 myself. In Bridgeport, Connecticut was very similar with chaos that you started to see. It wasn't necessarily as big when it comes to crack. I know it was definitely going around, but like some of your bigger cities, not necessarily as prevalent, but like gangs and the mob and stuff like that. So it was interesting to me growing up, like where I did like NWA and West Coast is really what introduced me to hip hop. And I grew up 25 miles, before we hopped on, as I was telling you, as the crow flies, from New York City. And the first hip hop I really got put onto was that West Coast hip hop. And I think it was, one of the first singles, that I ever put out was called Letter to the West, because it was so influential. And the thing that hit me so much about the West Coast was the truth that was
Right.
coming from the stories from the truths, as well, from the likes of NWA, Dr. Dre. I mean, like Dre Day was the first song that I think I learned like word for word. So I can very much appreciate what you're saying in that migration, and just how it went from coast to coast, and then it kind of started to migrate to the inner part of the country as well. So kind of with that said, when would you say, I mean, obviously you had mentioned kind of during the mid to late 80s is, when you and Tech were going to school, the rapping scene, at least for you guys locally in the 50s, started really getting up. When would you say that Kansas City really started to create their their own, I don't want to call it, I mean, Kansas City definitely has its own sound, but their own scene? When do you feel that, what time frame roughly is when it really started to populate, where you started to see a lot more people taking part in the hip hop culture, specifically when it came to MCing and rapping?
I would say the mid '90s, but because I'm a hip hop historian when it comes to Kansas City rap. The first person that I actually heard on record, which was it was on wax. CDs weren't even out yet,
Mhm.
and that was Vel Bacardi. Vel Bacardi and the Alcoholics. Um, he was on it. It was a compilation that he was on, and this was in 1989. Uh, that was the first one of the first. Well, that was the first record that I had purchased. Let me put it like that. But as far as the first rappers I had heard, uh, was a guy named Robert Harris. Um, he came out in the '80s. He came out somewhere in the mid '80s. Him and DJ Cutfast. DJ Cutfast was working with Icy Rock, and I don't know if you're familiar with Icy Rock, but he's a legendary producer out of
Yes,
Kansas.
yeah, no, I definitely am. Especially being here now, I've definitely know anything I didn't know about the history of KC. I've definitely taken the time to very much put myself up on, because I like you, I like knowing everything, and I have such an appreciation for the culture. I like to know as much as possible.
Right. So Icy Rock and DJ Cutfast, they came out with a record in the '80s as well. And then I can't forget about Dog Star D. Dog Star D came out with a record called Max and Chill. He came out with a single that just blew my mind, man. And I used to go see him perform. And Dog Star D is older, but I used to go see him perform wherever I knew he was performing at, man. And I would get in there, and these were clubs and different kind of places, but I would get in there just to see him perform, man, because Dog Star D was he was the bomb. But um, yeah, but I would say we came out as Black Mafia. That was
Hmm.
the name of my first group that I was in, which actually consisted of me, a guy named Boss Hawks, aka Diamond Shields, rest in peace.
Right.
Uh,
Yes, absolutely.
yes, another guy named Bakari, aka Michael Whitebeard, the 57th Street Road Dogs, rest in peace as well. And then Short Nitty of the Road Dogs. Back then we called him Mac 10. And this was before we even knew of a Mac 10 from the West Coast. Um, then my brother DL Marsh, uh, Dewan Marshall, he was actually one of the original members of the group as well. And DJ Bob, of course. Now DJ Bob was straight from California. He came to Kansas City in 1986, and he was a mixed master, man. He was a scratching wizard, man. He was tough on those turntables. And last but not least, Tech Nine. Tech Nine being a member of Black Mafia as well. So we came out with a tape in 1991. So we are one of the first groups, not the first, but we are one of the first groups to come out with, actual recorded music out of Kansas City. Back then you had Pure Dope Posse. Uh, who else did you have back then? Pure Dope Posse was real big too. Uh, I'm trying to think in the early '90s. Um, yeah, you had. I know you had Pure Dope Posse. Oh, OG Riff. Yeah, I almost forgot about OG Riff. Yeah, OG Riff come out during that time with music. You also had Meech. Meech Raps. Him and his DJs. They came out with a tape back then as well. So we was coming out with tapes back then, and that was real big. But I'll say the music scene really jumped and took off when you had, of course, Midwest Side,
Okay.
which was Don Juan and Diamond Shields and Tech Nine and the 57th Street Road Dogs. Then you also had Rich the Factor and MFR Records to come out in the mid '90s. So I'll say that's the era when the music scene in Kansas City really started taking a shape and an identity, and it really took off.
Which is important because I think it takes time, to really create an identity. And I very much think that Kansas City, as you had put it, has continued to evolve with time, and getting to meet a lot more local people in the time that I've been here. Even just connecting with people on a level of just connecting through social media or whatnot. Before my family and I moved here as well. And I know this is kind of the age old question for a lot of people, especially somebody who has the history and knowledge of the scene here. What do you think is the opportunity for Kansas City really to pop off on a level that it hasn't popped off? Because there's a lot of talent here, right? And I think
Yes. Yeah.
anytime I see somebody that's having a conversation on whether you want to call it talk show, podcast, whatever, when they get that question, what do you think it takes, essentially for Kansas City to have, not, I don't want to call it their moment, right? Because Kansas City has had many moments. They're going to continue to have many moments. But if you want to look at, the likes of, like in Atlanta, like in New York City, like in LA, like a Bay Area, like a Houston, for example, what do you think, takes Kansas City up to, you know, being in the same breath as some of those bigger cities, who have been there or are there?
Um, that's a good question, man. I have these conversations off record a lot about that, but this will probably be my first time really addressing it on record. My thoughts and my opinion. Um, I believe that it takes first and foremost it takes support. It takes local support. So if you are, and what I mean by that is Kansas City people would have to start listening to Kansas City music
Hmm.
and making Kansas City music a priority in their playlist, in their rotation, what they are listening to on their Spotify on a regular. That would have to be the first thing. Um, when you go to cities like Houston and you go to cities like Dallas, you're going to hear their artists on the radio. You're going to hear their artists passing by in the cars being played. That's why artists in Texas used to go platinum in Texas alone. They
Yeah.
didn't have to go outside of Texas. But
Yeah,
Texas is,
there was no need to. It's huge. Yeah, Texas
yeah,
is.
I mean, Texas is 100 times bigger than Kansas City in Missouri. But that would be the first thing that would have to happen. It would have to be support from within. Um, will that happen in my lifetime? I doubt it. And I don't want to sound negative, but it can happen. But you just, that's even with what you see nowadays online. Like, okay, if we do a show in Kansas City and we feature Kansas City artists, um, and you put 10 Kansas City artists on a ticket, you know, out of 10 Kansas City artists, you would think that each artist could at least pull in 25 to 30 people that are fans of their music. Just doesn't happen that way. You do a show with 10 artists in Kansas City and you'll be lucky if you have 100 people show up.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's crazy with
and
so
that,
much talent here too. It's
oh, it's a lot of talent, and it's so much and another thing that Kansas City has to understand, there are different boxes and different demographics of rap in Kansas City.
yep.
Everything ain't gangster. You got artists like Rob Ruckus. Rob Ruckus is elite MC.
Yes, he is. Yes, he
Key
is.
the Heater. Key the Heater. Elite MC. Um, there's a new guy, TC.
TC No Limit. Is that who you're talking about?
TC No Limit, man. The
Yeah.
guy's tremendous talent, man.
Yes.
Then you got TNT LKP, which is a group of brothers like the Wu Tang out of Kansas City, man. It is a lot of talent, and I keep up with this talent. But then you have a different demographic that shifts that goes to Miss Cush, who
Hmm.
is, oh man, she's killing it.
Yep. Yes,
Uh
she is. She's special.
Rob
She's.
Loader Star.
I,
Um, then you got Sunday. And I know I'm gonna miss a few people. I miss you. Hey, I apologize because I can't think of everybody. But you got 7 foot. 7 foot is, new shoes for Ray Ray. Man, we have a lot of talent in YGKC.
yep.
We have a lot of talent. Then you move over to another demographic of club music, and you got D Walk, who does this club music and have the clubs popping. Um, then you got what's the guy? Oh man, I forgot his name. Go on twerk, girl. Go on twerk, girl. What's his name? I can't think of his name, man. But
No, I got. I
the
got.
point is we just got different demographics of rap music in Kansas City. And of course KC Young Boss, man. I cannot go without leaving. I can't leave KC Young Boss out, man, because he is one of the elite uh musicians in Kansas City who actually he does pretty well for himself off of being independent. Um, and then we just had another guy that just got back home who's also, and that's Davey. Davey is back. He's an elite MC, man. So we got a lot of talent, like you said, man, in Kansas City, a lot. But it
No, I,
just it don't take the artists to support each other. You artists don't know it takes the common person who listens to music in Kansas City to support these artists. to become fans of these artists, to actually follow these artists, to actually stream these artists and put these artists on your playlist, actually purchase their merchandise, purchase their clothes. That's what it's going to take.
No, agreed. And one thing that I think it's important to note that you mentioned with all those artists that you mentioned there is they all have an identity, no different than you were talking about how the identity of Kansas City, Kansas City's music scene, started really come to shape in that mid '90s time frame. I think it's important that people as artists in any genre very much understand what their identity is and then just stick with it, right?
Right.
But also you have to understand for any artist out there, it's important, because tech obviously has showed that you can very much make it as an independent artist, very,
Right.
very much so. But
Right.
and you very much know him well enough. That did not just happen overnight. That took years.
Absolutely not.
It took the networking. It's doing the shadow work that
That's right.
nobody ever sees, bro. And I think a lot of people miss that part of it. People think because I don't care how dope you are,
That's
I don't
right.
care how good your
That's right.
song or your music is, if you're not willing to put in that shadow work,
That's
you're
right.
because everybody let's talk about take it from this perspective, right? Viral moments, right? Somebody that has a viral moment. I don't know, I don't care if you're a musician or a content creator. Nobody just starts an account one day, put something really dope out there and it goes viral. It doesn't
That's right.
happen, especially in today's day with algorithm
That's
and
right.
controlling a lot of these social media platforms. You have to put that work in to have that opportunity to go viral, in my opinion, for what it's worth, right? So you got to do that shadow work. What are your thoughts on the need for doing all that work that nobody's ever going to know or nobody's ever going to see on top of it in order to put yourself in a position where you can create your own opportunity, because that's ultimately what it is. With doing that work, you create your opportunity and then it's a matter of what you do with it, right? So
Right.
what are your thoughts on that shadow work behind the scenes? And again, you can speak from the experience,
Yeah.
with your history in the city as well, and this is just in general as well. Let's be real.
I'm glad you brought that up. One thing that people have to know about, we're going to use Tech Nine for example. One thing you have to know about Tech Nine is when Tech Nine first started, and he talks about this in quite a few interviews. You can go out there and find them on YouTube or on the internet. But when Tech Nine first started, even when he was with Midwest Side and when he went to Strange Music, Tech Nine was doing shows in front of 25 people. He was doing shows in front of 50 people. So he wasn't getting discouraged. They would go back and they would hit those same venues, but because of his talent and his determination and his tenacity, then that crowd would grow from 25 to 50 to 100 people. Then the next time he go back, it might be 250 or 500 people there. But he stayed consistent. He stayed consistent. And that's what I see a lot of artists, they give up. They get
Mhm.
discouraged and they give up. Oh, it's not going to happen for me. It's not, it might not happen at that time. But if you are a talent and you have talent, timing is everything too.
Yes.
So it just might not be your time right then and there. But I've seen situations where artists have made a song in 2026. And in 2026, when they release that song, they just might not get the traction. Come back 2 years later in 2028 and re-release that same song, and the song just blows up. So just being persistent and being consistent and believing in yourself and just stay at it, stay, making music, stay doing the shows. But now in today's time, artists have to learn how to take advantage of social media.
Hmm.
You know, me, JPZ, and the Popper was just having this conversation last night, and JPZ he said, "Hey, when you put out music, man, make sure you put out six variations of one song on a short. Make them all different shorts, but six variations of one song, because people time and their attention span nowadays is very short.
Yes.
So if you catch somebody's attention, then yeah, they'll go look for that song and they'll stream that song and download that song. But just make them shorts. Just try to catch their attention within that 35-second span. And you got artists like La Russell, who really put a big blueprint down for artists to follow. I know there's some controversy. People say, "Oh, he sold out. He sold the Rock Nation." But me being on the business side and understanding the business side, I understand that move because he didn't give up none of his publishing. He
Correct.
owned his masters and everything.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just the opportunity he got at the Super Bowl this past weekend. He would have never got that opportunity being independent. But being signed to Rock Nation, of course, that opened up doors that you would never be able to get through. He even discussed that man, I couldn't get on radio. He tried to get
Yeah.
on radio, he couldn't get through those radio doors. As soon as he signed to Rock Nation, boom,
There's
they
the
got him
story.
on radio.
And if I'm not mistaken, that wasn't the first opportunity that he would have had. Obviously, as you mentioned, he's now signed. I think he just announced that officially on the Breakfast Club last week. I think
Yeah.
there was conversations a couple years back where he was offered a deal with Rock Nation.
Oh
Um,
yeah, everybody was trying to get him.
so again, I think you said something important there. So it's the timing, right? But it's the business aspect of it as well. And I think that's where a lot of artists miss. You have to, I guess, let me put it this way. If you want the sustainability of being an artist in the sense that that's what you literally want your job to be, right? You're getting rid of your 9 to 5 or your overnight or your 9 to 5 and your overnight that you got to work to sustain your life and thus your art as well. You have to, at least until you understand what you want to do with your art, you have to treat it like a business.
You have to.
And,
You
and
have to.
I think
Now
that's
that's another thing as well, though. And I'm glad you mentioned that word business because it's the music business. Now, what I myself am trying to do is to establish that business relationship with artists
mhm,
because I don't expect an independent artist who just loves music. So, for instance, Tech Nine has who for his business?
Travis O'Gwen.
Absolutely. So the artists they need somebody there for their business, and that's what Black Walt is trying to establish with the artists in Kansas City to help you with your business because I don't expect you to be able to create music, go to the studio, record it, and then you got to go home and put shorts out and you got to okay, let me make sure I get in touch with We Outside podcast so I can get on their show. You know what I'm saying? You as an
Absolutely.
artist, that should not be your responsibility.
Just go focus on the art.
That's right.
But the
Focus on
business
the
still
art.
has to be run as well.
That's right. That's
I like
right.
your
So,
take on that.
and that's what Blackwater is in the process of doing right now. Actually setting up consultant slash management, business to help the artists out, to help them get in places. Um, South by Southwest is coming up,
Yep.
and I'm taking some Kansas City artists down there, and they're going to actually hit the stage down there. And everybody knows how big South by Southwest is. So these are the kind of opportunities that us as the artists need in Kansas City. And you also have to get outside of Kansas City. That's what it is. Kansas City is considered a D market when it comes to the music, uh, urban music anyway, and the rap music. So you got places down south where they do a concert. Uh, say they have uh, Kodak Black or Lil Baby or any of them in concert, and they're still doing 10 to 15,000 seat arenas, and they're selling them out. Come to Kansas City, it's rare. It's rare. It got to be somebody big like Drake or Rod Wave in order to sell those kind of concerts out. Um, but I watch the trend and I see those concerts come to Kansas City, and they're lucky if they get 5,000 people there.
No, I agree. I've definitely noticed and have heard over time in general, like Kansas City is kind of one of those flyover cities, if you will, for those bigger type artists.
Yeah,
Kind of for those reasons that you were talking about very much as well, which is crazy because one thing that I appreciate about this area is the history of music here and the love that people have for music. So it's crazy when I get to talk to somebody such as yourself, born and raised not only in the city but in the urban music scene here in Kansas City, and knowing the history and the love that there is for music here. Like, it was wild. I mean, my daughter plays the bass at school. I would have never, in Oklahoma and Colorado, there's not music class like that. And she loves music. She loves playing the
yeah,
bass. So that's
right,
cool to see. So it's kind of deflating when there's such a love for something in an area, but then, obviously we talked about it earlier where you just kind of keep hitting that like wall for somebody or the area as a whole, if you will, to
right.
really start to have that moment in time for the city. But and you're right. I think it's like, will we see it in our lifetime? Obviously, that remains to be seen. But something's got to give, and it starts with the support. Because if you're not getting that support locally, like we talked about from a business standpoint, because if your own town isn't giving you love as an artist, you might have to go somewhere outside of your
Oh,
town,
absolutely,
to
absolutely.
get
Perfect
that.
example is the artist from the Bay Area,
Hmm.
and this has been going on since the '90s. When you get to talking about Yuck Mouth, and you get to talking about, well, Yuck Mouth was a little bit more, mainstream success with I Got Five on it. Plus, he was signed to a major label. But when you get to talking about certain artists, um, you know, back then, like Looney Corleone and guys of that sort, that Sibo and um, what's the guy with Sibo that used to be with Sibo?
You're talking about
Killer
Brother
Tay.
Lynch. There's
Yeah,
so
and
there's so
Brother
many
Lynch.
out there. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
Marvelous.
Killer Tay
I
and
mean,
Brother Lynch.
you got Mac Dre from the Bay.
And Marvelous and Mac Dre. They would come to the Midwest, and this was they this was their bread and butter. This is where they made their money at. This is where they made their coins at. Absolutely. They wasn't making money like that in their own backyard. So, but they knew to get out and expand because we appreciated their music. We liked their music and we purchased their music. And a lot of guys in Kansas City, a lot of artists in Kansas City, shall I say, would pay them for features. They get paid for concerts. So the Midwest was their bread and butter. And not only Kansas City, also Oklahoma, Nebraska, Iowa, all these other states, Arkansas, uh, Colorado, so I really push for Kansas City artists to do that. Get out of Kansas City, man, branch out and go to these other cities because you might not get the appreciation in Kansas City, but that don't mean you won't get it in Denver, Colorado. That
Correct.
don't mean you won't get it in Dallas, Texas. And that's one of the things that's happening with artists like Miss Cush, and that's happening with Casey Young Boss and YG Casey, and these other artists, man, in Kansas City. They're seeing that. Hey, okay, well, they mess with me in Kansas City. They like me, but I'm not getting them coins and getting that support like I would get in Wichita, Kansas, like I would get in Topeka, like I would get in Denver, Colorado. So hey, that's what it is, and it's nothing to be bitter about. It's nothing to be mad about. That's just
Not at
how it
all.
is.
It's
Yeah,
you're right, and especially again when we were talking about that sustainability of running this like a business. Well, guess what happens? Like businesses that start to do well, in a local area, or even if not, it's like you got something good. Well, you gotta expand, right? You gotta start to franchise out almost, if you
that's
will,
right.
because again, if your ultimate goal is going to be to to take yourself as an artist to that next level. Well, how do you do that? Because even if I mean, like again, let's look at it this way, using tech as the example. If tech never left Kansas City, would tech be tech today? Right?
Right,
And in the
right,
sense of franchising out, no, because you're going to saturate yourself, not necessarily the market per se, right? But you're going to saturate yourself. Oh, it's just I've heard that. Not to say that what an individual in general would not be putting out is good, but it's just like, man, can we just get something new, right?
Right.
So
Right.
that's how you grow, and I think that's important. We're definitely talking a lot about the business aspect of it, and I'm glad that we are today because this is a hell of a dope conversation, and I appreciate the knowledge and wisdom that you're dropping because I subscribe to a lot of things that you're saying as well. Sometimes you gotta, even when you're talking about like repackaging, right? If something didn't hit a couple years ago, repackage it.
That's
Find
right.
find that identity. And I'm proof of that. I'm going through that literally right now. Right now,
Right.
I dropped it a couple years ago, and again, I knew nothing. I come from the corporate world, for a period of 20 years and some other things as well, but I knew nothing about the music business. I put an
Right.
EP together and I just put it out. But what was dope. It was a learning experience for me.
Right.
And something
Right.
that you said important earlier. You can't get upset. You can't get deflated. Like if you truly have a belief in what you're doing, you
Right.
have to keep pushing. You might have to make it something different in the sense of just repackaging a different way. So that really hit home with me because that's exactly what I'm in the process of doing. And then, I'm doing that for me and I'm doing that to have the baseline. And I'm automatically right out the gate coming out with something new as I evolved over the last couple of years.
Right.
Well, but that persistence is going to drive you to that success. And, with respect to what you said about the timing earlier, it's not just about the timing of, if somebody's goal is to get picked up, signed, blow up, whatever word you want to, give as what their goal might be. The timing for some, I think, is understanding that identity of who you really are as an artist or who you're trying to be as
That's
an
right.
artist. Once you have an identity, that's your brand. That's
That's
your
right.
brand. Your identity as an artist is your brand, and you got to pick it up and
Right.
run with it and be consistent.
That's
And that's very much for somebody like yourself on the consulting side and the business side, especially with the experience and knowledge that you do hold.
yeah.
Um, it's important, and I salute you for doing that with the experience that you have for people out here. Different than when we talked on Cass. Cass was here, a couple months
Absolutely.
as well.
Absolutely. Shout out to Cass. What's up, brother? I
Yeah,
talked to him today, as a matter of fact.
good dude, good,
Yeah.
good,
Oh
good
man,
dude.
man. And he's a hip hop, and he's hip hop. He is 100% authentic hip hop, and that's what I love about him. He's 100% authentic hip hop. And we talked today, man. Matter of fact, he was gonna come down to South by Southwest, but just so happened that he's getting married on the same day as South by Southwest, man.
Well,
So
congrats,
congratulations to you,
congrats.
Cass, and shout out, my brother. Yes, him
No.
and Jeff. What's up, Jeff? Yeah.
Um, I definitely got to bring this up because this was really cool to me from this perspective. You mentioned Jay Peasy. I've got a relationship with Jay Peasy. He's actually, once I started kind of creating my new sound, he's going to be my first single under my new sound after which will come out next month.
Good
But
deal.
what I want to hone in on is because we definitely have to talk about this because you A&R'd 5816 Forest Avenue with
Absolutely.
beautiful, amazing album, getting to know Tech's whole entire life. So I want to ask
Yeah.
two
Agreed.
questions from here. Jay Peasy was the first producer to produce, if I remember, if I remember and know my history correctly, was the first producer to produce every song on a Tech Nine album. So
The
that's
first and only. The first
first
and only.
and only.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because if I remember in my history as well, you called that play. Where did that come about? How did that happen? Based on at that point, Tech's 25 plus year history, give or
Right.
take, in putting this life story basically together.
How that came about is, when me and Tech, I brought the conversation to Tech. I said, "Hey, Tech, man, you know, I think you should do a solo album, man, with just you and only you on it."
Hmm.
And Tech, he wasn't with it. He said, "Nah, man, that would be boring, man." I said, "Nah, bro, you got it all wrong." I said, "Man, as a Tech Nine, not only your friend, but as a fan, not only your brother, but as a Tech Nine fan." I said, "Man, I listen to your music, and a lot of times, I hate to say it, but I just got to keep it real. A lot of times, man, I forward to your verse. If the beat is booming and the subject is on point, or if you start off and I'm listening to the subject that you on, and the next rapper comes on, and he's totally off subject, and he's. I said, man, then I skipped to the next song. I said, I'm tired of doing that. I want to just hear Tech Nine. And he was like, all right, well, I'm gonna holler at Travis about it and see what he say. And he took it to Trav, and Trav said, Black Walt's right. You do need to do a solo album by yourself.
Hmm.
And Tech called me back. He was real excited. He said, "Hey man, Travis agrees with you, bro." He said, "So let's you got the green light. Put it together. Find the beats for it." I said, "Okay." So I reached out to quite a few producers in Kansas City. I'm like, "Hey man, I'm working on this project with Tech. I need some beats." And the producers, they sent me beats. And the last person that I actually reached out to was JPZ. He wasn't the first, he was the last. And because I didn't know JPZ, we didn't have a personal relationship at that time. And I used to just watch his videos on Facebook when he would put up his videos. And I would always be like, man, that dude is
That's
dope.
exactly how I connected with him back in the day. Yep, like 5 years ago,
See?
something like that at this point.
See? Absolutely. I said,
Consistent
man,
with it. Consistent with
right.
it. Theme of this
Yeah.
conversation that we're talking about right now.
So I hit him up and I said, hey, JPZ, man, Black Walt, man, I'm working with Tech Nine on this new project, man, and we need some beats. And he hit me back, this is through text. And when he hit me through text, he was like, oh, you working with Tech Nine on a new project. And I in my head, reading what he sent, I'm like, oh, he don't believe me. He think I'm bullshit. So I called him. And when I called him, I said, yeah, man. I said, man, I'm working with Tech, man. I'm looking for some beats. And I heard your beats, man, online. And man, you got some slapping beats, bro. And I think Tech would appreciate your beats. And I said, if you could send me some beats, that'd be cool. And he never sent me the beats. So I waited uh probably for about 30 minutes to an hour. I waited and he never sent the beats. So I called him back. I said, okay, I know what I'm gonna have to do. I said, send me your number. And he sent me his phone number. And I called him and I said, hold on. And I got Tech Nine on the phone with us. And when I did that, and Tech got on the phone, he's like, yeah, man, we're working on this new project called 5816 Forbes, man, and we need some beats. And once JPZ heard that, man, he sent me about 50 beats. And me and Tech was going through the beats, and every beat that he heard from JPZ, he was like, I want that one. 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 At the same time, Nas was doing these albums with Hit Boy
Mm-hmm.
as the premier producer, as the only producer. So I said, hey, man, we might as well have JPZ as the only producer on the project. I said, you like his sound because and you picking out a lot of beats by him. We might well just like Hit Boy did with Nas. And he was like, yeah, you're right, Walt, let's do it. And that's how it came about.
That's what's up. Second question I have: did you know that Black Wall Street was gonna be a track on that? And
Oh,
then whether you did or didn't, what were your thoughts? Because obviously you guys got a history.
that
What
was
were
a
your
good.
thoughts when
That's a
you
good
heard
question.
that was gonna happen?
That is a good question, man. When we got to, oh, hold on just a second.
No, you're good, bro.
Yeah, I gotta put this. All right, my battery was going dead.
Oh, all good, all good.
Put the charger on there. So, to answer that question, um, when we got to Black Wall Street, um, we had an outline of the songs that he was going to rap about um, while he was at 5816 Forest. And this particular song was about how we met and how we recorded his very first song and how I gave him his name. Um, the original name of the song was called New Breed,
Okay.
Breed, as in dog, New Breed, because that was the original name of the song that we recorded, his very first song that he recorded in 1988. It was called New Breed. And so I said, man, let's call it New Breed, just bring it back because you never released that song. He
Yeah.
was like, yeah, you're right. So he went to writing on it. And the next morning, the next day, he said, Walt, I'm done. I'm done with the New Breed. He said, but I got something even better. I said, what is that? He said, I changed the name of the song. And I said, what's the name of the song? And he said, Black Walt Street. Man, I said, what? I said, oh my goodness. I said, man, I humbly thank you for that, bro. I didn't see that coming at all. And he named it Black Wall Street. Uh, I think it's Black Wall Street, the New Breed, in quotations.
Hmm.
And yeah, so that's how the name came about. That was all Tech Nine, man.
Man, that's what's up. That is what that's got to be a very humbling experience for you, and then something that you clearly least expected to come out of
Oh
that. So,
man, the highest selling independent album. Independent rapper. Come on, man, names a song after you. Oh man, I'm speechless.
I have one question because I definitely want to get into your book, but I have one last question about Tech, because I've been privileged and honored enough to meet him a couple different times. Humble dude, solid dude. Now, to give some
Great.
context, we all progress as human beings, right?
Yeah.
So let's not get that twisted. But has he always been just that humble? Because it strikes me as he has, right? But I've only met him in the last like 2 years, right? But just
Mhm.
super humble, super nice, very welcoming and inviting. Is that kind of how the foundation of his personality has always been as long
Yeah.
as you've known him? Because I can't imagine it really any other way. Like I hadn't seen him in a year, and I went down to Strangeland. I think it was like November for the King ISO and E40 Crash Out video
Video.
shoot.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen Tech in a minute, and Tech. We were waiting to get on set, and Tech rolled through, and he, said what's up. He made eye contact with me. I made eye contact with him. He came up to me. He did not forget me, and it had been a year.
Right.
So it just seems like he's always had that energy about him. I guess that's ultimately the foundation of my question. Has he always been like that from an energy and frequency standpoint? Because it very much just strikes me that's how it's always been, and that's always who he's always been personality wise. At a foundation, is that fair to say?
It is very accurate and very fair to say. Even with that being said, I learned a lot from Tech Nine as far as his temperament and as far as his outlook on life. He has definitely progressed though to where he's at now. I just be blown away. How his outlook on life and how he looks at things and how he handles things, man. Because he goes through a lot of stuff, behind the scenes that I know about because we're so close. But the the audience, the people don't know about it because he doesn't show it. He doesn't show it. He doesn't, every day he has a smile on his face and he moves on with life, man. And I learn a lot from him. And I actually sit back and I watch and I study and I say, damn, man, I like the way he handled that situation. Um, Let me do that. Let me lead with love. You know, that's what Tech does. Tech leads with love. He leads with his heart. And just for me, that's a good place and a good space for me to be as well. So yeah, he's pretty much been like that. You know, outside of back in his early days, which he talks about. When he
Very
used
openly,
to be
yeah.
on substance abuse and things of that sort. You might catch him every now and then, and he'll be gazed off. He's not gonna be mad, but he'll be gazed off, and you'd be like, "Tech, tech, tech." But other than that, yeah, he's always been that way, man.
No,
He's
because we're all
always
humans. We're all humans at the end of the day, and we
been,
go through
absolutely,
through emotions. And I love how you shared that. What you've been able to learn from him, right? Because I think that's another important thing too. Sometimes we got to swallow our pride as human beings, right? Like I like to live by saying, like, I'm not one of the smartest people in the world, but I'm one of the most intelligent because I know how to utilize the resources that are around me, right? And I think
right,
that's a good way to just describe what you just said from what you've been able to learn from him or other people. I'm sure that you've learned from as well, because I think it's important to be able to pick up, some things that always know enough to be dangerous, right? But if we truly don't know something, it's okay to ask for some guidance or for some support or just learning, along the way as well,
right.
which I commend you for. And with that said, bro, I want to talk about this book. You got a book that's coming out. What's something that we can expect, in this book that you've been working on? Because I know you have a very experience filled life as well. You've had the opportunity to go through some things in your life, like everybody does as well. What have you learned from your experiences, and just in general, what can we expect on this project? Coming from you.
The thing is what my book is basically about, and also there's a docu series coming with it, and also a mini series that's coming with
That's
it
what's
as
up.
well. And this is the
Congratulations.
first time that the public can hear about it. It's in the works, being worked on. It's been worked on. I've been working on it for a few months now. Um, but what it basically centers around is it's just, I guess you could say, a lot of people describe me uh, as a mystery. There's a lot of things that they hear about me, that they heard about me, but they just don't know the details and they don't know if it's true or not. So that's basically what my book is about, and what everything else is about is just my life.
Yep.
It's my life. It's I'm giving them my life of how I got into the music, how I got into the streets, because I basically juggle those two worlds also with the world of being a family man, because I'm real heavy on family. Um, so between those three identities, it's like I had three separate identities. And that's basically what I talk about, how I picked those identities up and learned a lot of the stuff that I learned from 55th Street. My neighborhood wasn't like, it wasn't just a neighborhood where people moved in and everybody minded their own business, and you might see your next door neighbor and wave at them and, hey, how you doing, and you go on your way and they go on their way. My neighborhood wasn't like that. My neighborhood was, I knew your mama, your daddy, your grandma, your grandpa, your uncle, your aunties. I knew your whole family, and you knew mine.
Yep.
And not only did you know them, but you would come over and you would fellowship with my family, and I would come over and fellowship with yours. That's how my neighborhood was literally a village. And so, with that being said, growing up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s on 55th Street, um, I learned a lot. I learned a lot of good, and I learned a lot of bad. And so that's basically what my book is about, and what everything else is. Have you ever seen The Wire?
Oh yes.
Okay, so just picture that right there, and that's what you're going to get. Black Walt, 55th Street, my life story. But you're going to get it from the Kansas City perspective.
Like that. I like
Absolutely, it's the Kansas City perspective, the lingo of Kansas City, the feel of Kansas City, how Kansas City moves, operates. You're gonna get all Kansas City. That's what it is, and I'm gonna talk about everything. from how I got involved in the street life with the drugs and everything, and not only just the drugs, even the gang ties, and um, I wasn't in the blood gang, but I was tied in very deeply with the Bloods and with the Crips also. So I talk about all that, and sometimes that created a problem. So a lot of people don't know, you walking that thin line where I got Crip homies and I got Blood homies, and
Tough
you
position to
know,
be in, especially in the '90s too.
absolutely. And my Crip homies is coming over to see me on 55th, which is all Blood neighborhood. And sometimes it created problems where my big homies would, hey, question me, hey, what's going on? What are these dudes going on? Woo, woo, woo. Hey, they over here for music. They over here for me, and they will respect it to that degree. But so I talk about all that, man. I talk about being heavily involved in the drug gang, um, coming from 55th Street, and being involved with you know, uh, some heavy hitters, man, in the underworld of Kansas City. There's an underworld in Kansas City, man, that if you're not in that world, um, you wouldn't even know it existed.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah, you wouldn't even know it existed, man. You wouldn't, and only the characters who are in that underworld, they know who each other are. We know who the Jack Boys are. We know who the robbers are. We know who, got the bag, who's really doing it, back then. This is back
Yeah.
then I'm talking about. Um, so that's how Kansas City was, and that's how Kansas City operated. And I'm just going to talk about it. I'm just going to talk about my experiences with it back
Of
then.
course, because it's your path that you've walked, and now you're really peeling
Right,
back the story
right.
on that and what it was from your point of view. And I really appreciate that because, outside of what people already do know or think they know about you, now they're going to get it from you directly, their point of view, and walking that path. So I'm looking forward to it. Do we have a final title name on what we can expect from that book, and where's it going to be available, and when is it going to be available as well?
Yes, it's Black Wall Street, 55th, My Life Story. And it's going to be available on all the, you know, Amazon, Kindle, and all that stuff. It's going to be available everywhere, and it should be available around the mid to end of March. So you'll see the advertisement for it and everything when it gets done, and we get everything pressed up. Uh, it'll be audio as well. So I'm excited. I'm excited about it. And also, I can't leave this out. I talk about the redemption as well. Um, how when I got to prison and I had a different outlook on things, a different outlook on life, and so when I got out of prison, how I just walked the straight and narrow, and just basically look to encourage other people and help other people that might be in a situation where they need some guidance. So I talk about that as well, and that's how I end the book off as well, to where I'm at today. The Black Walt is here today.
I'm excited for you, and I commend you on your journey and on your path, especially one that is very much of redemption. Um, because I don't think redemption stories get talked about enough unless it's something that's like very widely popular known. And I think with what you've done, what you've accomplished, I have a strong belief that the people that really need to understand what's going to be in that book, it's going to get to them. And um, I can't wait to read it because again, I've only known so much of you or about you, excuse me, up to this point from what I've been able to see from your social media or other conversations that you might have had along, the way. Certainly got to know a lot more about you, during this conversation. Again, I can't thank you because this is truly an honor and a privilege to be able to have this conversation with you as the human being that you are, bro. And I'm really excited to read the story when it becomes available. And it's gonna be a docu series, a mini series on top of it because I love a redemption story. I'm kind of living mine right now as well. I had some trials and tribulations in my life. I'm 5 years clean and sober. From
Right.
alcohol.
Dope.
Rent is due daily on stuff
Yes.
like that, man. So I fully felt that because I love a good redemption story, bro. I think it needs to be
Yes,
told.
sir.
I think most important, not only they need to be told more, I think people need to embrace those, and I think they need to be shared more, not just by the people such as yourself who are willing to share them,
Yeah.
um, but the world as a whole. Like we just we see all this. I was listening. I mean, you got OG Network behind you there earlier, so it reminded me of a Holding Court podcast I was listening to with uh with the dude Big Herc. Had a
Big
conversation in it.
court.
Big Court, yep, he was doing
Yeah.
the conversation, but there was this dude out of SAC originally, Big Herc,
Oh, okay.
that he had on as a guest, and former gang affiliated, and had some issues in his life, and now he runs a very successful YouTube show on life after prison, what happens to people who are having successful stories. And he was talking about, I forget what network it was that came up to him and they wanted to pick up his show, but they were like, yo, we love what you're doing, but we want to hear more about the people and recidivism. We want to hear more stories about the people going back to jail. And he's like, nah, bro,
Right.
like, no, like why? Why are we going to try and celebrate that? Let's celebrate people who have those redemption stories, who have gone to prison, whether it be a short or long period of time for whatever it was that they did, that are coming out and doing something good with their life because they have that different outlook now, and it's their redemption story to tell.
That's
And,
right.
I think that's important. So I salute you for embracing your path is in its entirety, the good, the bad, and the indifferent, and the strength that you have as a human being to then share that story with
Right.
everybody else. Because there are
Right.
people that don't even know it today that are hearing this conversation, or even people in your life that you've met along the way, whether you still have them in your life now or not. This is a story that people anywhere need to hear because it's a relatable story when you talk about redemption. Everybody fucks
Absolutely.
up in their lives, here, there, or somewhere.
Absolutely.
Um, and I think it's important that more of those stories and messages get out there, man. So I'm excited for you. We're gonna start to wind down here in a few minutes. We're gonna make sure that we give you the final thoughts. You're all ready, and you are officially a We Outside family member. We started, additional to our main page, we started a We Outside Legacy page, which we utilize to continuously promote our family members out here. So once that starts coming out, which is like anything in general that you have to promote that you're doing, feel free at any point to tag us if you want as a collaborator in a reel.
I appreciate it.
We're always happy, especially when it comes to stuff like this. We are happy just to give that extra level of support and marketing and just getting that word out of whatever our family members are doing. And the hinges are off the doors for our family members. Anytime you got something that you want to, discuss or talk about or to get out there, again, I'm sure you felt from this conversation, nothing scripted, bro. We're just humans who want to have conversations with other good, like-minded humans, bro. It's really
Absolutely.
nothing more than that with us. So we are
Yes.
privileged, we are honored. But with that said, I'm gonna get off my soapbox. I'm gonna let you have the opportunity. Any final thoughts, any final words, anything that we maybe didn't have the opportunity to discuss on this conversation that you want to share with the outsiders when they get to hear or watch this conversation.
No, I appreciate the opportunity and the platform, man. I know we've been trying to put this together for quite some time, and thankfully we were able to finally get together and make this happen. And I really appreciate the interest first and foremost, man. At the end of the day, I never looked at my life as anything extraordinary or anything I did. I just looked at my life as it's just like everybody else's. Um, until people from the outside and I would constantly hear it, even in prison. That's one thing that really used to baffle me in prison when I would constantly hear, constantly. They say, "Black Walt, you don't belong here, man. You don't belong here, man. You're much bigger than this place. You have a special light over your life." And I didn't get it. I'm like, well, if I don't belong here, you don't belong here either. You don't see that in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um, but I don't know, man. I guess God just blessed me with something that makes people see something else outside of me being in prison, or me being this drug dealer, or me being this street dude, or anything, whatever else it was. And I just appreciate it. I appreciate the support from everybody, man. I appreciate the love, man. I just appreciate it. And that's it, man. I appreciate you for bringing me on the platform, for even being interested to bring me on We Outside, man. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, man. Thank you. It's been an honor. We'll definitely have to do this game. I'm sure there's so much more that we can talk about, honestly. And next time you're in KC, we definitely got to try and link up. As we can. But ladies and gentlemen that have been watching or listening to this, this is the King, Black Walt, originally from Kansas City, Missouri. We're always going to get that right. And just as a reminder, everybody follow us on YouTube, because seriously, if y'all are rocking with real conversation, you just stay locked into these conversations. And so we see you on the next time. Black Walt, we thank you. Nothing but blessings, King. If you ever need anything from us, bro, you know where we are. We're outside, bro. Always. That's
Yes, sir. All right.
and then the conversation.